Hey, here we go. It's show number 84, The Last Angry DJ. My name is Mitchell K.C. Hill. As it says right there below me, the KC part, I have no idea where that came from. Back when I picked my radio name on WFIL, everybody that worked at the station had a name that was a amalgam of artist names. So I guess KC and the Sunshine Band. So that's why I had Mitchell K.C. Hill. So not that anybody really wanted to know that, but this is a very interesting program, and today's show will be no exception, except that we be exceptional in all possible ways by being crazy and unpredictable. And if you've ever been interested in what can possibly push the envelope in all particular areas, today's show is the one to be watching. And I do it every week with my good friend, Mr. Alex Knight. Hello, Alex. How are you doing, pal?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks, Mitch. It's Canadian Thanksgiving officially tomorrow, but I'm going to be celebrating it today, so I'm looking forward to some food. But we're going to have a great show.
Maple syrup on the turkey?
Maple syrup, back bacon, all the Canadian classics that you would expect. Absolutely. But today's episode 84 of The Last Angry DJ. This is the show where we interview luminaries in the world of broadcast, but it's not just limited to the world of broadcast. That's just kind of a blanket term that we use. I like to say that this is the show that meets old media versus new media. So unlike Iron Chef, it's not about whose industry reigns supreme. It's about talking about the ongoing challenges that all our industries are facing, everything from podcasting to doing production on YouTube to radio and the world of broadcast. And we have a great guest today. I'm looking forward to that. But before we get to our guest, I'm going to introduce Mark Giuliani, who knows a little something about radio. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, Alex. How are you? Mitch, how are you? It's great to be here. I'm in the production trailer of the talkadelmarva.com today, blowing around in the wind from this nor'easter. We're going to have a great show. Ask some questions at ask.theangrydj.com. That's ask.theangrydj.com. And Mitch, take it away.
Yeah, Mark is in the Jim Cantori weather bunker, live from down in Rehoboth. The winds are blowing. There's a nor'easter, which is creating a wild storm surge. And for those people that are into weather, Mark, give us the latest forecast. What's the weather?
All right, we get 40-mile-an-hour winds with peaks at 60, and I read somewhere a 15-foot storm surge.
So Sig Hansen is on his way in there to grab some.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's on their way in here. Everybody's on their way out. It's
there you go.
So kind of cars I've seen on Route 1 in a long time.
All right. So if something happens, Mark will report from his weather bunker. We'll look forward to seeing that report. But today's show is going to be rather fun and unusual. Our guest is Rob Carson from Newsmax Radio. And Rob is here to embellish our program with all kinds of expletives and other things that generally we don't do. But Rob, it's a pleasure to have you here. We'll talk about just about everything. You're an ex-radio guy or a former radio guy. Plus, you do a TV gag, right? Or gig.
Oh, no, I'm still a major radio guy. I do a nationally syndicated radio program on Newsmax Radio, about 40 stations nationwide, including the one that Mark owns. And then also we stream it live. I do a nationally syndicated television show called Rob Carson's What in the World on Newsmax, which Donald Trump says makes me the funniest guy on television.
Wow. I don't know if that's a compliment. Depending on where you're coming from.
Because, he doesn't drink, and normally you got to drink to find me funny. So it's pretty big deal.
I don't know how to take that. So I don't know you well enough to know when I can laugh at your expense or whatever.
You can laugh at my expense. People have been doing that for decades.
I'm all for it. And we were talking before the show started about some of the crazy stuff that we used to do. Rob used to work in the same line of work that I did in the 70s and 80s. He was doing the, I guess, the music radio, you referred to it?
Yeah, I did music morning radio. Your typical fare, your Hollywood dish, your big stunts, your big giveaways, the money giveaways, the car giveaways, all of that stuff. Competed with a lot of people. You probably know Dave Ryan, Bert. He just retired, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but a lot of people in the major markets around the country. Typical, morning music radio in markets like Minneapolis, Cincinnati, and Washington, D.C.
Oh, good on you. And, being an older radio guy like myself, my question to you is, how do you feel about the condition of radio? There's a lot of talk about AM being, a dinosaur and going away, and yet all the statistics from Edison Research and other places like that are not telling that same story. How do you defend radio, and how do you feel things have changed since the golden age of broadcasting?
Well, I got discovered by Chris Ruddy 5 years ago, so my career is just starting nationally as a nationally syndicated radio host and a talk show host. I did music radio forever. As far as music radio, or as far as AM radio is concerned, Rush Limbaugh saved AM radio in 1987 and kept it going for the longest time. We need to adapt. We need to use the digital to promote the analog to promote the digital, and the obviously the benefits of the AM signal and the FM signal focus on locality and local, and nothing does local like radio. That's it. Local TV does news. Local TV does not do the connection to all of the things that radio does. So there's a spot for radio. We just need to figure out how to monetize it, how to make it more affordable for programmers to and station owners to present, the medium. To remain relevant, and then use the digital with the analog in concert with one another.
So it's not really a technology battle; it's a content battle. With the way things are going.
Well, no, I think it's definitely technology. I listen to like for instance, when I stream GMD, Mark's station, I stream it. I don't listen to the signal because obviously I don't live in Rehoboth in Delmarva. WCBM, our anchor station here in Baltimore. I used to listen in Kansas City when I listened to Kansas City. When I lived in Kansas City, I just moved to Washington, D.C. about 4 months ago to do this. So the stream obviously is going to be very, very, very important for local radio. But the only thing that makes a radio station local is the AM and FM signals in the locality. Right now, there's no way to go to, say, for instance, Baltimore on your radio and go, oh, Baltimore stations and choose. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I hear you. And AM actually is much better in some areas for coverage. So it's not a tech issue. It's a matter of content. And if you can hear content, you normally can't. But the other interesting thing that's going on with broadcast is that the demographics for people that listen to radio are shifting older and older. It used to be, I guess we used to say we were number one, 18 to 49 or 45, mostly with women. Now that's where it starts, and probably in our age. I'm 71, so I'm still in the older demographic that radio serves. But I like the idea.
I'm still in my 50s, barely. But here's the amazing thing that you may be missing: Gen Z listens to spoken word more than your grandparents did.
As a format, but the content certainly is different.
Yes, but they listen to spoken word. They listen to podcasts. They listen to radio like your grandparents gathering around the hearth, which was the radio without television. They do. They listen to it all day. That's the great thing about it, that they are switching. They're listening to the oral media. We just have to be able to adapt and attract those people. It's not impossible to do. Spoken word is gigantic with kids. Spoken word is bigger than it's been in decades.
And that's why I have my younger co-host, Alex Knight, here to speak for the younger folks. I'm the old fuddy-duddy. Rob might be a little bit older, but Alex, how do you feel about that comment?
I think that's absolutely spot on. I think first of all, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I still listen to the radio occasionally as someone that has a long commute to work, so I do check it out for traffic and news occasionally, but mostly for traffic reports, just to kill some time while I'm driving. But I do listen to a lot of audio podcasts to stay educated on technology and all sorts of stuff, and even all the other stuff that's really popular now, like true crime shows, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's picked up a lot of momentum, so I listen to that stuff as well. So the breadth and depth of what's available for content on podcasts is pretty impressive, right? I mean, it's one thing to just have talk radio and stuff like that, but I just think there's so much more available in the world of podcasts, and he's absolutely right. A lot of people listen to podcasts,
and by the way, it also it's about connection. It's about connection. I've been saying this forever. Connection is as important as content. What I do on the radio, everybody talks about the Donald Trump this or this, that, or what's happening with Israel and Hamas and all of this. but the connection you have with your audience is what makes the difference. And obviously, you listen for connection. You listen to be immersed in things. You listen because you can use your imagination as the person is talking. You don't have to sit here and do this. And certainly when you're driving or whatever, but you can hear people and you hear them and they are there with you. That's how radio became so big, particularly talk radios, because you're there with the person in the car, with the person in their earbuds, whatever. And what you're experiencing there is, you are experiencing connection with the host, right? You choose hosts. You love their content, but unless you love them, their content doesn't mean anything. And so that's why it's so glorious, and I'm glad you can appreciate that.
Absolutely, and we've talked about this before, but one of the things that I sort of lament is the fact that the interesting and engaging hosts that I used to listen to back in the 90s on CFox, which is a big radio station, those people have gone, and I just feel like radio has become pretty boring, homogenous sounding, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just a lack of talent. I don't know if it's just training. I don't know what it is, but they're not interesting. I feel like they're not pushing boundaries. It's not edgy. Radio used to be a lot more edgy, I feel like, and it's just more boring.
You've got to create a product that is uniquely entertaining. That's one of the things that I've always said. You've got to create a product that is uniquely entertaining. You've got to do it in your style. Over the years, I have developed my own style, and it's taken 36 years to get here. And I'm just really beginning as a talk radio, syndicated for 5 years now, streaming since December, and it's gone through. We're number one streaming across the board on Newsmax. We have 20,000 people watching just on Twitter live, depending on the day of the week, and 3 million impressions every week. But I bring comedy to the table. I bring guests to the table. And you've got to create a product that is uniquely entertaining, and you've got to be able to connect with people on a personal and profound level. That's it. If you just go through the motions, if you're just on the air, like playing music, yawn. But if you listen to satellite radio, like Madison on XM, she's a progressive, alternative DJ. I listen to her because I like to hear her talk about the music. She has a connection. She's funny, and she also knows a lot about the music. And it really adds a lot. But what music radio did forever is you became frickin' liner card jocks playing 12 songs an hour because you wanted to make sure you were in the break at 4 minutes after, so the meter would get it, whatever. Just idiotic mental masturbation by the programmers of music radio, complete morons, and it took away the personality from it. So that's what you're missing. But the great thing is, it's back. I think it's back.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think partly to answer Alex's question about why that content has gone away is that now with all these big companies like the Big Five, like iHeart and Odyssey and whoever else is floating around out there, Beasley, it's hard for a individual to color outside the box. Everybody's being told, well, we need to have a consistent sound, and we're going to do things the same way we do in Minneapolis, St. Paul, here in Philadelphia, or wherever else. And they kind of push that. And it seems to me that the stations that step out with a morning show with great talent that has good numbers is at risk right now because they're being fired left and right for financial reasons, and also because they color outside the lines. That's my opinion. iHeart just announced a bunch of more layoffs of morning shows and individuals. Mostly talent is getting canned from radio stations. Why is that, Rob?
This started when the Death Star of Clear Channel Radio started circling the globe in 1988-89, or 98-99. And they began ushering in the era of the voice track jock, taking away the personality, be it liner card jocks, pay them $5,000 a year to replace a $70,000 jock in PM Drive in wherever market, whatever. And that's the way it was. I remember when I was working with Randy West. Randy West was thrilled. Oh my God, look, I got him on all these markets. Really? Well, guess what? The $3,000 you're getting for Cleveland, you're replacing a $75,000 jock.
Yep.
You're just reading liner cards. And then you have to be that way. And then group contesting. That's another thing. Group contesting killed all the originality of local giveaways and connection, car giveaways. I remember when I moved to DC at Mix 107.3 in 2004, I was killing 1 million people a week. in PM Drive. We gave away a $70,000 SUV. Gave away a $70,000 SUV. When I left in 2013, the last prize we get, the last big prize was a 1-year lease on a Jeep Wrangler.
Otherwise, essentially, you were buying the audience at that time.
Just absolute joke. And then they do, $1,000. We're going to give $1,000 an hour, $1,000 an hour. Well, 100 different markets, $1,000. And I remember in Cincinnati, there was a guy there named Walt, and he would record the person calling into the 800 number, separate tracks. So winner, Walt. Congratulations, how you doing? Oh my God, I can't believe I won this money. Yeah, I know, it's fantastic, And then you take the audio, you'd separate their audio, send it to the local affiliate, make it act like it was a local win. So you got a guy in Des Moines with the Boston accent winning a prize. Okay, sure. And that's, then they really, and I don't understand how the big companies really, first of all, they leverage themselves. They paid too much money for the radio stations, and they never recovered. And they've been firing people ever since and cutting budgets ever since. This is why, I don't know when large companies are going to hit bottom. I think they've hit it several times. But here we go again. They're laying off more people. With me, I left corporate radio in 2013 when I was fired by Mix 107.3. I built a studio and I began podcasting on Facebook before you could do anything but this. Facebook, live on your phone. And then they said, we got to create something that is uniquely entertaining. And if you can do that, if you can change and you can adapt, you can get an audience. I've talked to people like Mancow in DC. I've known Mancow or in Chicago. I said to him, he just got fired. I said, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to wait for a gig in terrestrial radio. I said, well, you might as well retire now, because you're never going to live the salad days of morning radio making $400,000 a year. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I always felt, Rob, that when I got out of radio in the early ¡90s, that there would become a time when I'd have to retire and I could get back into radio as a retirement, scam. And I asked a friend of mine who owned a group of radio stations. I said, "Hey, kind of ready to get back on the air again?" And he kind of leaned in and said, "You're too old." And that's the answer I get. And now when I ask the same question. We do voice trackers and we pay them $400 a month. Can you live off of that? And then it's like now even that is going away. AI does that for $20 or whatever. So it's tough. Talk radio would be a tougher gig with AI. Mark, is there any AI stuff going on with your talk station down in Rehoboth, Lewis?
There better not be.
Yes, there's tons of AI stuff. But we use it more to develop brands. We don't use it so much over the air. But I just wanted to point something out. Do you realize we represent the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s right here, right now?
The 80s and the 90s and the 10s.
No, not that. I'm talking about the demo of the panel.
Yeah. I always brag about how many people it takes to put the show on. And Alex always puts up 3 up of it's Mark, myself, and Alex. And maybe a few other consultants that we run their credits at the end of the show. So it's an interesting thing. But I have a feeling, I have an itch that says that the digital, velocity of radio might be where the future of broadcasting is going. Now, Rob, you're obviously doing that since you're on Newsmax. Are you on terrestrial radio as syndication, or are you simply on the internet?
No, we're on 40 stations around the country. We've been trying to get on a lot of the majors, but unfortunately, Clay and Buck took over Rush's slot. It's very hard to get on when Bongina was on, and then they gave that to Vince Colonnese. So it's hard to get a syndicated product on right now with some of the majors, and they're not adding anything. Westwood is not adding syndicated shows. They're not. They're done. Not doing it. What they're saying, literally, this is kind of an insider of baseball here. Westwood One is saying, if you can tell me how many impressions or downloads you get, then we'll consider adding you on as one of our programs that we share. So they're basically exclusively saying, you know what, radio, not so much. Streaming is where we are. The Barrett Radio Conference in New York this year, I heard, was like basically saying, do something else for a living.
Yeah, I'm doing retirement for a living.
But no, I'm not so pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic. You've got to reinvent yourself. I've reinvented myself. You got to reinvent yourself. You got to find ways to be compelling. You got to find ways to become interesting.
And mine is welcome to Walgreens. If you're looking for the blue light specials, try aisle 3.
Could work at Walmart. Branch out, increase the value of your currency.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. And Mark, Mark is live and local, and he's an independent owner, and that's why we like him on this show, because he's got the point of view that we're not going to hear from iHeart. And by the way, we've invited iHeart on before, or Beasley, and they've turned us down. Big surprise. Mark, how do you feel about what we're talking about here? Do you think that?
I think it's spot on. Rob earlier said that the younger generations listen to more spoken word than ever before. And what is talk radio? Talk radio is spoken word, and we just have to continue to push forward with the digital meeting the broadcast, so you target both local and you target beyond local at the same time. But let's get into some questions. We got some great questions stacked.
Oh, good. Have at him.
Okay. From Walt Palmer in Lewis, Delaware. How did Rob get connected with Rush Limbaugh?
Rush Limbaugh. Like I said, I was out of college. I was making $18,500 a year. My take-home payment was $485 every 2 weeks. My car payment was $390 because my mom wanted me to pay off my car in 2 years, and my rent was $350. And I started writing for TM Century, which is a comedy service for morning radio, because most morning radio people don't write their own comedy. And then I started doing that, and then I heard about this Rush Limbaugh guy in New York City, and I knew my friend Rusty Humphreys working for TM Century. He was doing a voice for Rush. He was doing a Mike Tyson impersonation. He was also working at WPLJ. And I said to Rusty, you suppose this Rush Limbaugh guy would run my comedy? And he says, I don't know. Why don't you talk to Kit Carson and Johnny Donovan? And then I did, and I wrote for him for about 20 years.
Wow.
But I didn't get paid. I didn't ask for money from Rush. I got paid from TM Century and Premiere and all of the radio networks that provided comedy for and prep services. You may be familiar with prep services, because radio, even talk radio, gets prep services. I get a prep service that every day. I do all of my own prep, but I do look at the prep service for some things. And Michael Pelka puts that together, by the way. It's good stuff. But that's what I did to supplement my income. I was making twice as much writing comedy as I was doing radio after 2 years, and in Rush's best-selling book. But again, I had to kind of increase the value of my own currency by learning different things. That's one thing I would recommend to you, is increase the value of your currency by learning other things, learning how to write, learning how to do this, learning how to do that, learning how to podcast, setting up your own studio, all of these things.
So we're talking about comedy and comedians. How do you feel about that? That's a pretty interesting subject. We've had them on our show before, and in the cancel culture that has existed till now, that's been a big issue. It's very hard to be a comedy guy that's doing observant comedy like Seinfeld or whoever else. How do you feel as a comedian about how things are going?
Offensive comedy is making a comeback gloriously. It's making a comeback.
Isn't all comedy offensive in some way? Somebody has to pay the bill. Telling a joke.
They had to tone things down for years when our speech was called disinformation, for God's sake. And cancel culture got rid of Andrew Dice Clay. They tried to get rid of Dave Chappelle. There were a bunch of brats at Netflix that were going to storm out. They demanded the company get rid of Dave Chappelle, and Netflix stood by Dave Chappelle. That was a major bellwether move. And then Shane Gillis, they canceled him from Saturday Night Live. He was going to be a cast member. They said, no, you made a joke about Asians years ago. And they had to go back to him, tail between their legs. He's the most popular comedian in the country. They had to go tail between their legs and invite him on to host SNL as a canceled potential cast member. So gloriously, offensive comedy is making a comeback, and it's about time. Comedy is meant to challenge the boundaries. Comedy is really not about entertainers, about philosophers. If you look at some of the greatest philosophers in mankind, you don't remember the words of Socrates, but you remember the words of George Carlin. And what he had to say,
or Mark Twain,
or Will Rogers, or honestly. So no, it's gloriously making a comeback. And back to Mark, back to radio and the power of radio. We did an event called Wings and Wheels last week, week before. And we really, I got to tell you, I have not seen the power of local radio in force, particularly we had a major market outcome of people who are fans of this station, even though it's a small market station. And it showed the power of radio, Mark. That event really did. Can you share that with anybody? I don't know.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, it was Wings and Wheels. It goes on at Delaware Coastal Airport in Delaware, in Georgetown, Delaware. And they bring in planes, old planes from World War II, vintage planes. They even had some electric planes there that were flying around, some UAVs. And they also bring in lots of hot rods. Got to see a cool, what was that, a 1960 Corvette, Rob, that was there? Yeah, it was pretty sweet. So they had lots of cool cars, lots of vendors, lots of food trucks. And Rob was out there doing a 4-hour show. It was great. He had plenty of people coming up, sold lots of T-shirts.
Coming up. Hundreds of people coming up. We sold T-shirts. We did autographs. We did hugs. We did selfies. It was powerful. And this year, their attendance went up by what?
5,000. I think it went from 10 to 15,000.
15,000. And you can blame a lot of it, not only on the weather, but also GMD's presence there, because they pushed the crap out of it. And I also pushed it nationally on all the radio stations around the country and streaming for Newsmax. And they ended up having a gigantic event and people coming out and giving me hugs and getting autographs. So the connectivity is there. You just need to figure out how to connect with people. And
comedy does that. I agree.
Radio station.
We need to find more ways to have a conversation in life, because we keep hitting the wall in general conversations. It could be a political wall, it could be a cancel wall. I think that's one of the main reasons I'm doing this show, is that I just want to find something that we can talk about. And we don't all have to be on the same politics. We don't have to all be conservatives or comedians or radio guys. And I like how we do this.
You're exactly what we're talking about here. What you're doing now, you have refused to go work at Walmart. But look what you're doing. Look what you're doing. Look at this. It's a very high quality broadcast. And some people are going to find this interesting. There's going to be an audience out there that finds this interesting. And I think it's great that how you've evolved this way.
That's a great segue into the next question.
What's that?
What advice, this to Rob, what advice would you give to someone who has on-air experience but has never done a solo show and is nervous about talking for an hour by themselves?
Do it. There you go. It's not easy. The first time you do it, every day I'm on the air for 3 hours in a room by myself. I also do a television show in a room by myself. You have to realize that camera in front of you and this microphone in front of you is talking to someone, even when you can't see them. You're having a conversation. They are hearing you. And it does take some adjusting, but you have to realize that you're not just in a room by yourself. You are talking to people.
Rob, how did you make the transition from radio to television? Because that's a tough one in some radio people. They have a hard time making eye contact, not throwing their hands all over the place, all that stuff.
I originally wanted to be in television. That's why I used the name Carson, like Johnny Carson. And I discovered soon after getting on television that my resume containing Rush Limbaugh would prevent me from being in a network television situation. And that was proven in 2010 when Oprah Winfrey's producer called me for her new network and said, "My God, you're fantastic. Where have you been?" "Oh, my God, I'm Rob Carson, been radio, blah, blah." And, "Oh, you were the best thing we've ever seen, blah, 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 blah." And then they found out I worked for Limbaugh and it was over. And it took Chris Ruddy to rescue me. I had to sell cars for 3 years, for God's sake. I was fired at this crappy little station in Kansas City, and I had to sell cars. And he called me and he says, "Rob Carson, where have you been?" I said, "Well, I've been in an abusive relationship with radio for 25 freaking years."
Abusive?
It's been an abusive relationship. My God in heaven, are you kidding me? Five times I was fired, not because of ratings, most of the time for money.
What's funny about radio is that once you've done it and you've committed to it, it's in your blood. Yeah. And I left radio in the late 70s and came back to radio in early 90s. And, I left radio again in the early aughts. And I wouldn't mind getting back on now. This is the closest thing I have to it, doing this podcast. It's an interesting bug to have. But making a transition to TV, no problem. I can handle that. Although I did talk to my mom before she passed. And I said, "Mom, how do you think I do on TV or on the internet?" And she just leaned in and said, you have a face for radio.
Thanks, Mom. But no, as far as doing it, you have to get over your fear now, or you're never going to do it. If you have fear about it and you think, how am I going to do this? You're never going to do it. You have to leap. You have to make the leap, and you may fail. And you may fail one time. You may fail 500 times, but you've got to do it. You've got to go in. You've got to treat that microphone like you are talking to someone and not think that you're in a room by yourself. You can do it. I've seen it done. I've seen it done by young people diving into it. Dylan Parentis is my web guy. This guy had 280,000 followers on Instagram. He sold his Instagram account for $90,000. And he was, I think he was 18 when he started. And he just did it. And he just did
there
you
go. Step out.
Dive in.
Once again, to tell everybody, thank you for watching The Last Angry DJ. This is show number 84. Our guest who we're talking to right now about radio and TV and streaming media, Mr. Rob Carson, related to, I don't know, but he's got the last name and he's got the spiel. So, Rob, how do people reach out and get in touch with you if they're interested?
Google Rob Carson or Rob Carson Show. I'll show up everywhere. All social media at Rob Carson Show, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, just look up Rob Carson Show.
There you go. Mark, any more questions rolling into us?
We have plenty of questions. Right. Rob, you tout your culinary expertise. Are you classically trained?
No, I was hired at a truck stop at age 15 illegally on Interstate I-80 in Iowa, and I learned how to cook there. And then I took it from there, and I just through experimentation and whatnot, I've had the opportunity to cook on stage with Wolfgang Puck and Ted Allen, among others. I'm not a chef, but I'm a damn good cook. So really largely through experimentation. And then I was when I was in DC, these people, I wanted to get into television, and these guys, they said, we need somebody to do, we were thinking about doing a car show where I go out and talk to, about new cars. And so they told me to come in and audition and do something, show us how to do something. And so I made my guacamole, which is called guacavejas, trademarked, by the way. So I made my guacamole. I did Rob Carson's guacavejas. But I did that, and then they said, well, how about we do cooking videos? So we did about 100 cooking videos in Washington, D.C. And it largely, and I'm going to be building a brand. This is another part of it. I'm building a brand, a swag line, cooked products. I've trademarked guacavejas and other things. And so, I'm going to build the brand as well, look for other opportunities to monetize. I've creative designs for T-shirts. I have like a T-shirt that says has some fruit and it says veganism is an eating disorder. And then I've got my pardon me if you're a vegan, but and then I've got like my slogan is don't catch the stupid. And so we do that, trying to do that. But as far as cooking is concerned, it's all self-taught, and I just basically mostly because I enjoy cooking.
But I think you need to mix cooking, culinary, with some kind of reality. Maybe some kind of dumpster diving thing, how to survive on leftover food across the country.
Oh, well, that would be perfect for people in radio then.
Bring Bear Grylls into, the taste test things, whatever. I think that would be an interesting approach.
What I want to do is we're building a late night set here, and we're bringing it to Washington, D.C. Gutfeld doesn't get all the people in D.C. because he's in New York, and the other guys on the West Coast, they don't. I can get, this is Hollywood. Washington D.C. is Hollywood for ugly people, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go cook with John Kennedy, and we're going to go to the gym with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're going to take them outside of the comfortable and do different things to get more out of them. I like to say, like with humor, you disarm the opponent. I don't know, you've probably done hundreds of radio interviews. How do you get the best question? How do you get inside the guest's head? You connect with them. I've always used comedy, but there are ways that I'm like, first, I want to do cooking. I'm going to have politicians come to a test kitchen, and we're going to cook. And while we're cooking, while they're focusing on all this, I could ask them anything.
Yeah, I'd love to come on. My specialty is Scrabble. Explaining what that is, depending on part of the country.
I was just at Apple Scrapple yesterday.
I wasn't.
There you are. How was it?
It was great. It was full of vendors. I mean, like 4 or 5 blocks of vendors. They had the scrapple slinging, where you had all the mayors of the local towns competing in bocce ball with cans of scrapple. It was unbelievable.
Bocce ball. Did they have a listing of the scrapple ingredients? They should have a contest for that.
It was up in bright. It was all up in a big giant map of where it came from. Each little component. No. They did not.
From a pig or other farm animals?
All right, let's get on to the next question here, Mitch. Okay.
We call it Geta.
Rob, from a avid listener of yours in Lewis, Delaware, who is your parody music writer, and how does he grind out so many great bits every day?
Well, I work in concert with Jim Gossett. I've never allowed anyone else to write my material. I've always done my own material, but I met Jim Gossett about a decade ago. And like a lot of the times, I will come up with an idea and send it to Jim. But Jim Gossett is his name. You can go to patreon.com/Jim Gossett Comedy. You give him $10 a month. He will send you all the parodies a day. He does 2 damn freaking parodies every day. He does 2 a day. When I worked for Shanklin did 1 every couple weeks. And Jim Gossett is a genius. You could have a parody produced faster than your Uber Eats order will arrive. He's so brilliant. I was thinking the other day, because I have a massive catalog of worthless knowledge in my brain from 25 years of music radio. And so the other day I said, like Antifa. Wait a minute. And I was thinking of, how do you handle a problem like Maria from West Side Story? Because I know a lot of musical theater and stuff. I was in musical theater in high school and college. And I said, how do you handle a problem like Antifa? And he wrote it. And then the other day, when Donald Trump was blowing up these drug boats off Venezuela, I said, let's do the drug boat. We'll not be making another run. And then he wrote it and produced it for me. And he's using AI. Now he uses the voice of Trump. You don't need that sound. You don't need to be an impressionist anymore. You can use an AI version. And it's literally them singing the songs.
You know who used to be really good at that, was famous in Baltimore, Washington, was Bob Rivers.
Oh, God, yes.
Bob Rivers was brilliant.
Yeah, he was. I Am Santa Claus is the greatest CD ever created. He did I Am Santa Claus to I Am Iron Man. And he did Walking Around in Women's Underwear. Yeah. That thing's been around 35 years. He was a genius.
Yeah, and one of the things that he did, not to get too much on the side, is that Bob was an aficionado of all the instruments that the Beatles, for example, or Led Zeppelin, they did Sled Zeppelin, by the way. Oh, yes. He recreated the exact sound that those songs were done, even the Beatles songs that he did. All you need is elves. It just doesn't get any better than that. So a shout out to Bob Rivers and his what he brought to the world of parodies. Parodies are fun. And, an interesting sideline is if you hook up with Rick Beato, who's very prolific on the YouTube for music, Rick is fighting single-handedly, practically, the battle of fair use on YouTube. Because if we were to play even any one of those parodies, and I'm sure that Rob has a few that he has queued up, if we played any of them, we're going to get flagged by YouTube. And we don't think that's fair. We don't think they understand the term fair use. The government has told us what fair use. It's written into the laws, but they don't seem to apply to them. So we always go by mentioning, well, the law's still there. They still will flag us. I get nailed when running air checks. I tried to play air checks on the air one time. It was like 10 or 15 seconds of Chicago, and we got flagged by whoever owns the Chicago catalog right now. So we hate that.
Here's the case I referred to off the air. Campbell versus Acuff Rose Music. It was a 2 Live Crews parody of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman. And this gave permission for you to be able to satirize. It wasn't a very good case because it wasn't satire. It was use of a song to create another song, but it protects satire. But YouTube, honestly, they are so just painfully stupid sometimes on YouTube that they will flag you, but you're protected by this. But they'll flag you, they'll mess with you, they'll shadow ban you other places as well.
They need to take a stand. They need to protect us, the people using YouTube too, that instead of just saying, hey, not our problem. Our AI just flagged it, and you got to work it out with whoever. And I think it's being abused. There are bounty hunters out there that are out there nailing people left and right on this fair use.
Well, Newsmax, I can't run parodies on my television show. Right. They're like, nope, we'll get flagged. My nationally syndicated radio show is streaming live. We've not gotten flagged. They don't have a problem with it this way, but if I did it on my television show, there would be a problem. So
Interesting.
YouTube is finally lightening up a little bit. They used to be real bad about it. And hopefully they will realize that all they're doing is hindering people. They're not going to get sued. It is protected. But it's a hassle, right?
I think it's likely to happen if Google gets smart and spins off YouTube as a separate entity. I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So when that happens, maybe they can concentrate more on it. And the world is a different place. I mean, I used to tell kids, hey, son, you want to get away, get in the world, it's all in plastics. Or learn how to code and do websites. And now all that's been replaced by AI. So I think now what you want to do is you want to become an intellectual property lawyer. That's the job that you want to study for. And you can get that $100,000 plus salary when you get out of college and finish paying off your school loan, because all the other jobs are going to be taken. If there's a job out there that AI can do, trust me, it's going to be doing it. I do voiceover stuff on the side. Yes. That's gone. That business is gone.
But I'm going to tell you, I have a major problem. I'm hearing radio stations that are using the voices of their previous announcers.
Yikes.
That's bullcrap. That's illegal. You cannot do that. Johnny Donovan. Can you imagine taking Johnny Donovan's voice, just a sample from the Rush Limbaugh program, and doing all of your voice work on your talk show as Johnny Donovan's voice? You can't do that. But then they also just use fake voices. And there's going to have to be a point where we stand up and we do something about this or challenge this legally. And Hollywood's really going to take it in the shorts, because you're going to be able to generate movies in a few minutes, and it's going to put everybody out of business. We've got
and now on the internet, Rob. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I got to say it. Now on the internet, I have to scrutinize every little clickbait about a new series that's coming on that's fake. Yep. And the latest thing I'm seeing all the time is this 31 I/Atlas comet that's arriving. They've got pictures of it, but it's like Battlestar Galactica that's coming to visit us from another universe. And it's just so much is that I think a lot of people believe this stuff is real. So my idea is an app with a little meter at the bottom that says fake, 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 no, 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 or whatever, to give people some kind of some kind of context for what they're looking at, because the fights where there's a kid sitting on a stoop of their house and a black bear runs up and the cat jumps up and attacks the bear and the bear runs off. This stuff's all fake. It's fake, and I bet most of the stuff that gets to clicks appeals to people that are going to hit that like button. So what do we believe now? Where do we go for unadulterated realness?
I saw one the other day with John F. Kennedy Jr. John Kennedy standing in Dealey Plaza. Standing in Dealey Plaza going, the bullet actually came from over there and not from over there. And I'm like, what the what? And it was his voice and it looked like he was standing in Dealey Plaza. Yeah, I mean, it's cute and everything. It's cute, but really, what are we going to do? Because that's news is questionable. Sometimes you have to it has to be what do you call it? When you investigate a news story, vetted, whatever. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some kind of reference point. So maybe one of those talk show people like yourself are catching on as the unadulterated truth. What was it? Truthiness that Stephen Colbert coined that phrase. You've got to be careful. You got to look at your sources. Because I see stories all the time, and it's like you go, that's bull crap. I have a BSO meter, and that's from life experience, and just what I've been through, and I can tell when something is bull crap. But occasionally, you're very tempted. It's like you're right there, and you're like, no, that can't be. It's gonna have to be challenged. There's gonna have to find some parameters. There's gonna have to be some sort of a summit with some guidelines with regard to AI, because intellectual property is very valuable. You can't have it stolen, and you can't have it reproduced.
It's being stolen now.
I know it is. I know what it.
And the government can't do policing of that. They can't hardly do themselves, much less for other things. So, we have a Department of Truthiness. Somebody's going to investigate all these things and decide what's real.
Tried that, and fortunately, it didn't work out. With their,
was that communism? I don't know. What was that?
Well, I don't know. They're going to have to come up with some parameters for AI. That's just it. There's going to have to be something because we're on the cusp and we're right there. I mean, I don't know if you saw. Did you see who was it the other day? They played a country song. Oh, this guy. He's always on the web, and he has. I can never remember his name, but he's a guitarist and he has musicians on his show, and he generated a country song with a female singer, and it took 3 minutes, and it was brilliant.
There's a group that's charting on Spotify. What are they called? Velvet Sundown or something like. Alex, you should jump in here and help me out with this. It's completely AI generated. The story, their backstory, their pictures of the band members, the song. It's charting on Spotify. Alex, have you seen this?
Nope. Don't know anything about it.
Yeah, you probably don't want to know anything about it too. But when AI starts replacing creativity and culture, that's when we really got problems. You can't tell one from the other. Wow, that means I'm not good enough to tell the difference between real and false.
But there's only one you.
I feel that as long as I raise my hand and say "me to God's ears," I'm telling you that Atlas 1AC picture of Battlestar Galactica coming in from is fake. There's going to be a lot of people. Hey, they can't even believe that the Earth is round. There's people out there believe it's flat, in spite of all the of the great representation. I saw a thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson talking shit about something. I said, "This is fake." I got sucked into it like anybody else, clickbait, and he started saying stuff that I knew Neil would not say. And it's like, again, it's just like we got to watch out for AI because it's so easy to do deep fake videos of anything. And if they start announcing that there's an atomic warhead aimed at Rehoboth Beach and you're sitting there in your weather bunker, Mark, you're going to sit it out or are you going to salute the sky one last time? I mean, how do we deal with this?
I'm going to get under my desk.
Under your desk, that's what we used to do.
It's like
so much bullshit.
Like War of the Worlds. It's like War of the Worlds. H.G. Wells and Orson Welles.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark.
And while we're talking about space, I have a very technical engineering question from the engineer of the Talca Delmarva.
Oh, that would be Walt Palmer.
And Walt Palmer says many satellite distributors, Premier, Westwood One, Audio One, are lowering their broadcast audio quality to save bandwidth. Talk Media Networks broadcasting Talk Media Network is the only distributor still pushing 44K. How will this affect talk radio?
Well, I'll start because I got a technical buzz in my little head. Is that I think they can do a little bit of compression to save space, not too much. 44.1 is. Here's the thing. If you're saving music as an MP3 file, stop doing it. You can go to any Best Buy or even a drugstore, and you can get like a 50 gigabyte quadrillion byte hard drive for like $30 or $40. There's no need to have compressed music, but people have gotten used to it, and people consider that's good enough. So as long as those people out there are saying, well, that's good enough on a talk show, I don't really notice that being compressed or sounds bad. And the owner or the person that's putting this program together says, I just saved 50% off my space-time segment on that particular satellite. So to answer Walt's question, I think somebody has to draw the line. The question is who? The consumer by paying more, or the owner of the service that's paying less? Who the hell knows?
Or do you think it's just all going to go digitally through the internet? Eventually, as those satellite birds start to get old and start to fall out of the sky, are they going to replace them with new satellites? Or
I don't think they have to worry about them falling because the FCC right now is trying to take away another big chunk of the C-band spectrum from broadcasters in order that they can sell it off to the telecom. I mean, as soon as you put a little money out there on the doorstep, Congress is like, ooh, good, a little more money. Let's convert all those C-band. So all the people have rural C-band receivers sitting out there in Farmland USA are not going to be able to get their TV channels the way they used to, and it won't be so easy to do a satellite transmission from a talk radio station somewhere. A lot of that's being done now IP-based anyhow. So, Rob, I chatted it up, so it's your turn to jump in with your answer on that question.
Well, it depends on what you're listening to. I mean, there are some things you're going to need much higher quality audio. There are some things that, not so much. I mean, my God, we're talking AM radio here. Does AM radio ever make you go, I want to listen to Zeppelin? Woo! I mean, really? Honestly?
Yeah, me.
It depends on what the application is, obviously. I use MP3. Sorry, I didn't realize I was a charlatan. I use MP3.
Wake up, Rob. Wake up. There's so much better out there. You're wearing headphones. You don't need to hear mono, MP3, 128.
Easy to. They're usually easy edit, and I can record them on my WavePad sound editor and use. They're just generally news clips. I don't convert my satire to MP3s.
Yeah, everybody should be doing WAV files. So, Walt, you knew the answer to that question. That was a ridiculous question that you could have answered very easily yourself. Don't abuse your privileges here on The Last Angry DJ. Mark, more Walt questions?
Well, then I won't say who asked the next question, but the next question.
Thanks.
The next question should be very entertaining because it's going to give Rob the opportunity to tell us how much better it is to do a radio show from Washington than Kansas City.
Well, I moved to Kansas City autonomously. My wife decided to divorce me. She announced she wanted a divorce the day after the election. That's weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird how it happens? I'm a Trump supporter and I do a conservative talk show in our house. Isn't that weird how that happens? It's kind of strange. Anyway, so I formulated the idea to come to Washington, D.C., and I got to tell you, I'm having the freaking time of my life. It was the best thing ever. And then I realized that it was where I have to be. It was where I have to be because of the historical significance of this presidency, and also what was going on in my life, and I can have anybody in the world here. I get invited to things. I get to meet people. I get to network with power players and whatnot. And listen, I'm not here to be a DC insider. Rush used to talk about that. He said, I don't want to be a DC insider. I don't want to go to cocktail parties. I'm not going to do that. What I did was I told my listeners, I'm bringing you here with me. And so I'm here to share the experience with listeners. I'm not here to do a song and dance. Look at me, I'm next to whoever. Like the other night, I went to Kennedy Center, did a little deal, and I ended up hanging out with Andy No. Andy No's this journalist who's been the snot by Antifa, and I ended up just hanging with him. And anyway, he said, "Well, why don't we go in and we got the award ceremony together?" I said, "Okay, Andy, let's go." Go into the Kennedy Center, walk into the Kennedy Center, this big hall. They're going to honor Pete Hegseth and Megyn Kelly's there and everything. And I walk up to the top row and there's 2 seats open, and I walk up to these people and I said, "Hey, is anybody sitting here?" No. So I as I'm sitting, I leaned over and I said, "Is this the Metallica concert?" Turns out there's a delegation from the Italian embassy, and we ended up having a great time and just talking to them. And I'm going to lunch with them tomorrow, for God's sake. And I'm going to share the experience with my listeners because I want to be able to. I didn't want to just move here and say, "Look at me." I wanted to bring people with me. I wanted to bring them with me. And so, ultimately, the response is, it is a dream come true for me, and it was something I had to do. It was something I had to do, honestly, to survive in broadcasting, really, because radio's a tough road to hoe. In case you didn't know, guys, I mean, it's going to be a big surprise to you guys. Right? Radio's a tough road to hoe, and so I said, I'm gonna move to DC for a career-wise, but also I'm developing and working with Mark on ways we save radio. Then this is just the seedling. This is just seedlings. I've already been talking to Mark about it, and I'll send him an idea, and he's like, "Well, that's really stupid, Rob." And I'll say, "Okay, Mark." But anyway, but no, but I think we're here. I think there's a reason why Mark and I are here together. Mark came in the studio. I got a studio, and Mark owns he's an architect, for God's sake, and he's got the room full of very quiet people here who are very studious, and they build things, and they got this noisy guy in this studio. Mark just happened to have a studio. He said, you can use it. So I brought my broadcast studio here. And so now I'm working on how do we save radio and incorporate the other media. And I know there's a way to do it. And it starts with local. It starts with local. Local. Radio's not going to die. If you're thinking radio is going to die, you're wrong. How do we make it profitable? That's the next step. Clearly, the people in charge of the major broadcast companies don't know what the bleep they're doing. They haven't for 25 years. They didn't know what they're doing. How do we do it? You guys think about it. Maybe there's a reason why we're here right now. Maybe there's a reason why a guy from Canada's on the friggin' thing here talking to us. How do we save radio? The only way we save radio is to monetize it. Radio's not going to go away because it's AM and FM. Radio's going to go away because it went broke. So how do we monetize it? How do we make money? How do we use the digital to promote the analog? Use the analog to promote the digital. That's what it's all about. Wow,
that's a great answer.
And I think we had a guest on a couple weeks ago who said that the frustration they're feeling is not that radio doesn't work. Radio does work.
Revenues.
Proof that radio works, because I know that we work with different car companies, people that repair cars, people that sell cars, and they say the reason we advertise on your station is because every car that comes in here has your station tuned to the radio. So we know it works. But
by the same token, Mark, Congress voting AM must carry in every car isn't the way they need to solve the problem. I mean, no. I agree with it, but I don't think that's the solution to saving AM radio. It's all about the content. It's about the content,
but it's also about educating business owners that digital is great for certain things. It's great if you want to geo-target down to a zip code from a distance. But broadcast radio, it still carries the ability to get people into a store. The people with money in the demographics that have spending money still listen to radio. And as Rob said so early on in the show, more people are listening to spoken word now than ever. And there's more radios out there than ever because now they're all on apps on your phones.
And local sports and high school sports, like what you guys at GMD. Who's going to come? My son's game is on tonight. Oh, my God, we got to listen to my son's game on tonight. Right. Nobody's going to do that. A podcast isn't going to do that. Nobody's going to.
Or grandson or, whatever.
Or for instance, radio or watching baseball sucks. Nobody likes to watch baseball games. You listen to the boys of summer doing the play-by-play. Jack Buck, Marty Brenneman, and then the new generation of broadcasters. Radio, baseball sucks. It's boring. It's like a step above cricket. But if you listen on the radio, you listen to them tell their stories, and you listen, and that's what radio does. So yeah, we just.
I like celebrity curling is my favorite sport. I'd love to see. And another one would be interesting. Celebrity luge fucking would be an interesting. I dropped the F-bomb. There goes Mark. Mark is reacting. Sorry. Yeah, we're gonna get flagged now. On that. Edit. Great visual though, if you think about it.
Yeah, do we have the ice is really could be dangerous.
Do we have any more questions coming in, or did I just scare everybody off?
I think you scare them all off.
I think you
a record number of questions.
About what you guys were just talking about. I think that, look, we're not the greatest thing since sliced bread. We've been at this for almost 2 years. We're coming up on our 100th episode. And, we don't believe that we're going to, solve all the radio's problems. But I think talking about it and talking about everybody, a good idea can come from any place. It could come here. It could come from, some fevered dream from eating too much pasta the night before. It's interesting. As long as we feel that we're contributing something to the general zeitgeist of broadcasting, we're all in. but we're not going to get rich.
Don't expect an answer from the titans of radio because they've bleeped it up. They've humped it up. I'll just put it out. They've humped it up. They've humped it up. It's going to take people like you and I and us to save radio. It is. I'm not meaning to sound like I'm a sage or whatever. But the people in charge of radio are accountants. They don't know dick about radio.
Radio's going through the same thing the airlines went through when the government came in and ruined the airlines. Now, and radio had the same thing. You had all this massive money come in, try and consolidate all the stations. There went local. Because the stations are sitting there trying to reduce overhead. They're cutting the heck out of it, and now they're trying to do local radio from one station, and they think they can make everything local to all. Yep. And you can't do it.
I know the CEO of iHeart, Bob Pittman. I knew Bob back when I was on WFIL, and he was running NBC as a very young man. And Bob's thing that he did, let's see if this sounds familiar. He took a radio station that's playing maybe 40 or 50 songs on the charts and cut it down to 10 songs. And super high rotation. All the jocks stopped speaking for themselves. This point to Alex's point of view about personality going away. All they did was red liners. Back before automation systems did that for you. So Bob, I think, is applying the same methodology to iHeart, saying, hey, we just need to dumb down radio and have it be guys promoting the brand and playing the hit songs, and that's it. And people want more from their want more from the radio. Are you kidding me? Listen to Spotify.
If I don't listen to music radio. Dear God, are you kidding me? If they're just going to be liner jocks and songs that you've heard 1,000 times, honestly, music radio needs an enema. I mean, honestly, oh God, I remember I was in Cincinnati, and thank God this guy's no longer in radio. My program director, and I said, "Why do we play this song so much?" Well, we auditorium tested, and it gets an 89. And I said, "An 89 what? Marbles? What? 89 what? What is it? What?" He gets an 89. I'm like, oh, dear God. Programming needs to come from the gut. It comes from the feelings, and it needs to have personality. Music jocks, more than ever, maybe there should be some sort of rediscovery. Because you know what? Here's what they said. Keep it short. Keep it short. Keep it short. One thought per break. Keep it short. One thought per break. How about shut up and let people talk? Let people connect. That's the problem with corporate radio. I've seen these people, they write in like commanding generals. I remember seeing, what was his name? Fareed Foolman. I'll just call him that. It's actually Sulman. What a moron he is. I can say this now because I don't have to worry about Fareed Foolman firing me because he's doing something else now, moron. Or the Dickhead brothers. I mean, the Dickey brothers, whatever. Those guys write in, oh, we got everything. We got to figure it out. And 2 months later, freaking Cumulus is dead. Or not. No, Citadel. Okay, whatever.
Yep.
They're the morons. They said, keep it short, one thought for break, play 12 songs an hour. So you're playing songs that you've heard a million times, and you got jocks just reading line of cards. Well, gee, I don't know. How about we listen to Spotify? How about we listen to just this? If music radio is going to survive, it's going to have to bring personality back. And if I turn my flashlight on right in my face, my God. But these people are the answers are not going to come from the corporate heads who've been in charge of iHeartRadio. Nothing against Bob. I know Chris. I know Chris Bear. I know everybody. I know everybody in corporate radio. It's not going to come from them. It's going to come from us. Because
they can only cut their costs so far before there's nothing being offered. And it's not contributing to their bottom line. I mean, what does it mean when, I don't want to pick on iHeart specifically because all the big five have similar problems. They're in and out of bankruptcy and stuff's going on. And the question is, how do they make themselves relevant? Maybe it's diversifying, get out of the business and let more owners take over some of these stations and run them like Mark is down in Rehoboth and Lewis as a live and local alternative. Maybe radio has to turn around to that.
It's fire sale. Right now it's fire sale. In the 90s, they were paying so much money for these radio stations. Mix 107.3, where I worked, it was a $75 million acquisition. Okay? How are you going to leverage that? How are you going to monetize that and pay the debt? That's what corporate radio did to radio, and they've done it for years. Right now, it's a fire sale. So I would say that if you can get into a smaller market, buy some stations for pennies on the dollar, hell yeah. Then we got to figure out how to monetize it and take care of the debt.
And hopefully that'll happen within the next 5 to 10 years, because in the meantime, you gotta pay the bills, right, Mark?
That's right.
You like your business, but you'd love it a lot more if you could monetize it. We'd love to be able to make money on this show, Rob. We're not at that point. Are you monetized on your podcast broadcast?
Oh, I know how to whore myself out. Are you kidding me? In fact, while I'm at it, let's talk about Birch Gold, where right now, if you buy up to $5,000 in gold, you'll get this free silver coin. Now, we monetize. I
think the Franklin Mint was there before you on that.
No, but yes, we do, and you have some advantages with doing this with Reach. You can use QR codes, you can do graphics and whatnot, like the stream. You can sponsor things. But Mark, I want to hear Mark, because Mark, you have a better idea of how much radio stations are selling and selling for, what you need to make, and the challenges of monetizing there. I think the largest challenge you have is finding people to sell, right?
I really haven't looked at it that way, but I think that's probably true, that you've got the big stations, the big groups are hanging on because they have the power to file for bankruptcy and keep on going. So I don't know that the stations are there to buy, but there are some stations in our market that we're looking at to see if we can expand our reach.
Wow, that's newsworthy.
Yep.
Maybe each of us on this panel could take one of the stations, and I'm thinking punk country would be the new format that would work.
Chris Ruddy, when he hired me, he wanted to create the Newsmax radio, and he said if he couldn't clear my show on a station, he'd buy the damn station.
Well, there you go.
But right now, a lot of things have happened since then. A lot of Newsmax has experienced exponential growth, gigantic growth, and the radio thing is kind of faded, and now it's moving into podcasting. But there are the fire sales are happening. I mean, the station I worked at, Mix 107.3 here in Washington, D.C., cuming $1 million a week. It was gigantic. They sold it to a religious broadcaster. I call it begging for Jesus. So it's a nonprofit. They beg for Jesus, and they're monetizing.
Yeah, we had a similar situation up here in Wilmington. Station that sold for $40 million, I think was the number, to Beasley. They just let it go for like $8 million, and it's doing religious programming. And, the question is, when you have a license in a market, you're supposed to be serving the public interest of your constituency. I'm not sure it's doing that. I mean, that's a pretty blatant statement to make, but there's only one music station now in this market, and the other one's religious. And like you say, they're out there, looking for donations to keep their broadcast going. It's kind of a weird Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
They're a nonprofit, and they use their religious affiliation like organized religion does in a tax-free in a tax-free environment, and so they can pay their salaries and everything and do it that way. That's So that's why I keep telling. I'm gonna start calling myself Rob Jesus. I think from now on is what I'm gonna be. Rob Jesus Show.
Rob Jesus. You got to change it up a little
Jesus
bit.
Carson.
Jesus Carson. That's it. Excellent.
Fire sale is the way that these big companies are going to have to sell. I mean, hell, I worked in Columbia, Missouri, but my first market is not even a rated market, like 300 whatever. They sold the little cluster that I worked for to Cumulus like 15 years ago for $35 million.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Yeah, those days are gone. And what the big companies are going to have to do is they're going to have to fire sale these stations, write off the losses, and then we pick up the pieces.
Well, it's starting to happen. What are we going to say?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Rob, I have to tell you something. You've been a very interesting and illuminating guest on the program. And statistically, Alex shot me a note. He said that our viewership has doubled since you started the show. So maybe we have, 200 instead of 100 people watching right now live? Can you come back on a regular basis, like whenever you feel like?
Dude, because I got nothing else to do on a Sunday night. I got no wife. I got no kids. What the hell?
This is a fun show, and we can talk about literally anything. Yeah. And I think you'd be a good guy to, because I think radio needs more cheerleaders. I feel you're a cheerleader for broadcast as we know it. And maybe it needs to change. So Let's go out there. We have no sponsors that we could piss off. Once in a while, I do a thing I call Mitch's Beef of the Week, brought to you by Arby's, where we have the meats. We're not doing that today, but I have a lot of beefs all lined up. So
you should call it Mitch's Bitches, because you're bitching about stuff. Maybe you should call it that.
Yeah, that's going to get us canceled. That's for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Carson on Newsmax Radio. You can find him there, probably looking for you as a listener. And we thank you for being here as our guest. And Alex, how do people reach out and comment about what we've been talking about and ask about what we're going to do next week?
Thanks, Mitch. Absolutely. You can contact us by joining our community. We have a Discord community that you can join. I'm going to pop the QR code, which is hovering like magic right over my left shoulder there. If you just scan that QR code, it's because I forgot to resize it because we're in native 4K. But anyways, if you can zoom in and just pull out your cell phone, you can scan that QR code. That will take you to the invite page where you can pop into our Discord community and chat with us. We have all sorts of different channels broken up into different topics that we can discuss the various things on the show that we are planning on working on. But it doesn't have to be just about this show. We've got lots of other channels broken up into topics like movies and stuff like that and technology. So if you have any questions, it's a fun place to be. Of course, you can reach out to us on social media. We also have an email address. If you actually just go to our website, it's thelastangrydj.com. That's probably the easiest way to fire off an email and get in touch with us. The show, we look forward to your feedback. Of course, if you like this show and you're watching it right now, but you haven't actually subscribed to the show, we live stream this show every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you just hit the subscribe button and that'll make sure you get notified when the show goes live. And of course, if you don't want to watch our faces on screen, you can listen to this show as an audio podcast. We usually release that the day after on a Monday, and you can find this as an audio podcast and wherever you find your podcast. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher, Pandora, Amazon Alexa. You can ask your smart device to play this show, and it should work for you. And of course, last but not least, if you'd like to support this show monetarily, you can do that by going to patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ. That's patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ and become a coffee supporter at $2 a month, which we would sincerely appreciate. We'd also like to thank the folks at Boinks Software who are providing Memo Live, because that is the program that we're using to broadcast this show on. We wouldn't be able to do this show at the level of quality that we are doing it today without Memo Live, so thank you to those guys very much. Back to you, Mitch.
Yeah, by the way, in the Patreon thing, a single malt scotch would be preferred. I don't drink coffee. So 3 fingers, for each show that you like would be greatly appreciated. And now over to Mark in the Jim Cantori Weather Bunker in Rehoboth. How's the weather right now, Mark? And what did we learn today?
I can't see outside, but the wind has died down momentarily. I'm not rocking back and forth like I was a little earlier. But, the storm is still south of here, so it's going to get rougher. As the night goes on.
So what did you learn today?
What did I learn today?
Yeah, what stood out?
Rob looks marvelous. I've always seen him in real life. I've never seen him on TV before, but now I'm looking right at him.
By the way, the reason why it's quiet is because you're in the eye of the storm, man.
That's right. Like the eye of the tiger. All right, Mitch.
All right, Mark, please be safe down there. Watch that 15-foot storm surge. And again, Rob, thanks for coming on. I think you're going to get some great numbers. What's cool about the show, by the way, is that we get decent metadata back about who's listening, how long, and what they liked about what we were talking about in real time. So we'll have all that information to share with you. And I'm serious. I'd love to have you come back from time to time to be one of our guests here to talk about the State of the Union, as it were, on broadcasting.
Yeah, brother. Sounds cool. I really enjoyed it. You do a really good job. The show looks spectacular. Thank you for make it look a little worse with my face on it. But really, honestly, you got it together. It's been a real pleasure. I'm really, really professional. Not a surprise because Mark's involved, and Mark is a friggin' genius. But thank you. I would love to come on. Listen, I have nothing better to do with my time on a Sunday. Trust me.
It's all Alex. Alex does it all.
baby.
Alex does to make us look good. And by the way, it's a little bit of a backhanded compliment there, Rob. You know, you have nothing else to do, so I'll do your show. But we'll take it any way we can get it, you know, any way we can. So that's it for another program, number 84. I believe we're lining up for another Broadcast Boffins edition of our show next week. In the meantime, don't forget to go to the.thelastangrydj.com. No, it's not the. It's thelastangrydj.com, right?
Right. TheLastAngryDJ.com. If you want to ask a question ahead of time, ask.thelastangrydj.com.
That's it. And Mark sounds more excited than I've heard him in weeks. So
don't ask the DJ at the AL. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Let's get it all together. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how people respond to this after the fact. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.